Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Let's Play Total Annihilation. I am your host, Neruz.
And I'm Lord Booger.
And this is our Mission 7.
And you're building while you paused, you cheat.
Well, our Mission 7 is, a lot of people have been really looking forward to our Mission 7 because it's kind of, it's one of those defend yourself from enemy attacks missions. And it's pretty vicious. It really is.
Oh, you got a fancy missile ship, though.
Yes, you start off with a missile ship. Don't worry, that won't last long.
No. I see you're on a nice beach planet, though.
Yep, we're on Thalassian. Having fun on Thalassian. And as you can see, the computer immediately attacks you with a destroyer and a missile ship. So that destroyer and missile ship you start off with, not really all that useful.
As long as you keep the missile ship moving, he won't be able to hit it, pretty much. And you can hit him because he likes to sit still.
There is that. And I don't think I show it for a while, but tidal generators on this map produce some ludicrous quantity of energy, so I'll be using them pretty much exclusively. Oh, there we go. We got bombers incoming, and we got some ships coming in, and all hell's breaking loose. And yet, bombers!
Yeah, they're actually doing something useful this time, unlike the last one.
Yeah, no, the bombers are basically hard-coded to fly up the sides of the map and attack anything they can see there. They'll hit your laser towers, they'll hit your storages, and if you let them, they'll go after the Moho mine as well, which is right there. And we need to defend that, because if that Moho mine dies, we lose the mission.
And even worse, you've got absolutely nothing that can really hit air except for maybe a Samson or two.
You start off with one Samson and I think 3 Jethros, and that's your anti-air. So that first wave of bombers is pretty much always going to kill something, because you just don't have enough anti-air to fend it all off. I'm also sending these hammers wandering around the island looking for any extra metal deposits, because the hammers can't really do anything useful right now. There aren't any extra metal deposits. What you see is what I get.
Oh dear. I suppose it's nice they gave you those ships to fight then.
And fortunately, I do have metal makers in this mission at last, and because tile generators produce such an obscene quantity of energy, they're actually viable.
And an advanced shipyard, nice.
Gotta start getting cruisers out. Destroyers, unfortunately, just won't cut it.
It's because you don't have enough of them.
Yeah, no, destroyers just flat out won't cut it. Like, later on there's going to be some core forces coming in, which destroyers alone is simply unable to fend off. You need cruisers, and you don't need battleships, but it's certainly a good idea to have some battleships by the end.
Can you build them in this mission?
Yep.
Oh, even better.
Yep, advanced shipyards have access to missile ships, cruisers, and battleships in this mission. Missile ships are kind of not really all that useful because you're hitting moving targets most of the time. But the others, the cruisers and the battle cruisers, are extremely useful.
You get the sharks?
No. They get piranhas though. Well, they get piranha.
Well, that's fair.
Well, as it turns out, a slight AI hiccup with the piranha results in it being... Well, you'll see.
I don't think you have enough defences there.
Well, I vaguely remembered from the first time I ever played through this mission that the Corps liked to send bombers up, and of course that first wave of bombers sort of has me kind of scared and paranoid. So I've decided that I'm going to completely surround the Moho mine with anti-air and Dragon's Teeth, and let's see the bombers try and get through now.
You know they can just fly over the Dragon's Teeth, right?
Shh, shh, shh. Yes, I do, but the Dragon's Teeth will interrupt a couple of bombs and reduce the damage dealt to the Moho mine.
Fair enough.
In theory. I don't think any bombers actually attacked the Moho mine after this point, or at least survived to attack the Moho mine, so all those defenses are completely pointless. But hey! Keeps my construction K-bots occupied.
That's the odd thing about anti-air and TA. It's actually pretty useless if you stick it on the target. You need to put it before the target, because otherwise everything gets to shoot anyway.
Yep.
And if it's valuable, you don't want to lose it.
The exception to that is flak, because flak you will actually want around the target.
Because it's short range, too.
Because it's short range, and because it's terrible hitting moving targets.
Well, that too.
Now, you might be wondering why there's all this land to the left and right sides of the map, and so am I. I don't know.
To fill with metal makers, obviously.
Later on, I think the Corps tries to sneak in some amphibious tanks to attack the Moho mine, and I would assume that their tanks are supposed to like come up on the sides and then drive up the sides and sort of attack you in a pincer movement, but they don't. They just try and charge right up the bay. So
The time on it attacked the most heavily defended part of the target. Attacked it.
yeah, and it's kind of funny too, because of course amphibious tanks travel underwater and they can't do anything while they're underwater, but my destroyers can depth charge the crap out of them while they're underwater.
The AI in this is vicious sometimes, but it's really not too smart.
That is its one saving grace. The AI is functionally retarded.
Think of it as like an idiot savant. It's fantastic at a couple of things, but useless at everything else.
Well, what it's more is that the AI is completely clinically stupid and retarded and whatnot, but Cave Dog's designers weren't clinically retarded.
Well,
And so they've given it a bit of a helping hand every now and then with certain scripted maneuvers which can and will fuck you over if you don't know they're coming.
I suppose the whole idea is you haven't played this before, you don't know what's coming.
And if you don't know how the AI is going to work in each mission, then it can actually often feel surprisingly alive.
Well, that's the idea. It's supposed to make you feel like you're playing against something, not a computer.
And Cave Dog did pretty well with their scripted events to do that, because there are several parts, especially later on as they get more and more elaborate, where the AI pulls off some tactics which almost look clever if you don't know what's really going on. And in case you're wondering, I've decided to reposition my Zeus and all my hammers over there because for some reason I thought that the amphibious tanks were going to come up in that second bay there. Like, I'm looking at the map and it's like, okay, I know there's amphibious tanks coming and I've got the second bay all the way over here, so it makes sense that there's going to be some stuff coming up in this bay over here, so I'll stick my anti-ground forces over here so they can warn me if anything's coming.
So for all your defenses in this mission, none of them are actually helpful at all.
None of the ones I build, no. The only defenses that actually like really assist in this mission are the boats I build and some of the torpedo launchers. The torpedo launchers are kind of fragile, but they do take a few chunks out of enemy units and slow some others down, so...
That's what I found with the advanced torpedo launchers. They do a ton of damage, but they fire so slowly. They do track, though, rather well.
Yes. The advantage of the torpedo launchers is that they fire Tech 1 strength torpedoes that track, whereas normally Tech 1 torpedoes don't track. And if you've got something like hanging around the torpedo launchers so they're providing supporting fire and not absorbing huge amounts of enemy attacks, then yeah, they will quite easily chunk enemies.
And also the Tier 1 torpedo launchers are above water. The Tier 2 ones are all underwater. They can't be hit by boats unless they have depth charges, which is very handy.
It makes them a lot better, as both for defense and for sneaky ambush bullshit. This is me showing the range of the cruiser, which, as you can see, is pretty decent. There's the outer range of its plasma cannon, and that's, what, about 2 screens? 1.5 screens? And this is a big screen, too. Imagine how big that range looked on 640 by 480.
Yeah, I can remember that being several screens when you first play the game.
First time I built a Guardian, when I first played the game, I was like, oh my god, it can reach across like half the map.
It's kind of depressing now, it's so much less impressive. Especially even more so with the longer range plasma cannons, they were so amazing, and now it's like 3 screens and you wonder what the fuss was.
Technology marches onward. I have to say, one thing I definitely prefer with Supreme Commander over TA is line of sight. Like, Supreme Commander doesn't do realistic line of sight, you just get straight circle line of sight across hills and whatnot. But to be perfectly honest, I prefer it, because getting line of sight on shit in TA is just so hard. Line of sight is just so short, and it's interrupted by so many things.
Yeah, it's realistic, but it's not really conducive to fun gameplay.
It can be extremely irritating at times, yes. I certainly can understand why they decided to make the change in Supreme Commander.
I suppose ideally you'd want some sort of compromise between the two, but I have no idea how that would work.
I think what you'd need is like some kind... Like, it would be nice if TA had maybe some sort of Tech 2 mobile sensor unit that just had really long sight range. Like, it's kind of like a mobile radar, but for sight range instead of radar. That would probably do the trick.
I'm sure Supreme Commander had something like that, or I may be imagining that.
The expansion pack Forged Alliance added I think it was the Oculus perimeter defense system to the Cyberns, which is a great big camera. That was a stationary structure that basically gave huge amounts of vision all around it. Very, very useful defensive structure, especially if you're against Cybern. Because of course Cyberns like their stealth.
And boats that walk. Supreme Commander, it was okay, but never particularly caught me like TA did. I like the huge variety of units they had in it, and the different tiers and everything, but still.
The only thing about Supreme Commander I really didn't like was the Omni Radar. Yeah. Also, look, I'm being attacked.
Look at that.
As you can see, my 3 torpedo launchers were all immediately wiped out, but they took an enemy sub with them, so it's all good. And there goes my missile cruiser, and my cruiser, and some more destroyers. Fortunately, another cruiser's out, but... Well, you can see what I mean about this mission being kind of brutal.
Yeah, if you're not expecting that, if you've just got a few boats, then you'll be in a lot of trouble.
And it's important to remember that I've been building destroyers and cruisers pretty much non-stop as quickly as I could without completely crippling my economy. And I've still only just got enough forces to fight this off.
On the upside, you've now got a smorgasbord of metal supplied to you.
That is, yes, that is a definite upside when it comes to this particular map.
I noticed you built a couple of metal storage as well, so you can actually suck up all those boats and use them, rather than going to waste.
I happen to be aware that I'm going to have a shit ton of wreckage to reclaim in this mission, so I'm going to stuff myself full of metal storages.
Makes sense.
That is the nice thing about naval maps. Boats are worth so much metal that after a fight you can usually... Like, once you've got enough metal to build a fleet, so long as you keep winning, you'll always have enough metal to keep building fleet. Of course, if you then lose that fleet and the enemy gets all that metal,
Well, luckily the computer's not quite smart enough, but in multiplayer it's certainly a death sentence.
Yes. Multiplayer naval battles are kind of amusing because no one ever commits, because they're all so terrified of losing all of their metal.
Yeah.
And of course, ships have got such a long range that it's possible to engage from such ridiculous distances that it's really easy to just never commit.
You can destroy so many things you never even get to see.
I don't think I've moused over a tidal generator and shown it yet, but I think they produce like 42 energy in this mission.
Wow.
It's completely insane, and it's probably the only reason that this mission is actually really doable, because if it, like, I mean, I'm currently sitting at, what, plus 1,000 energy just off a few tidal generators.
It's possible it was deliberate. They did the whole...
I'm pretty sure it was deliberate, yeah. Like, the briefing of the mission mentions that metals are extremely rare on Thalassian, and that's why the Moho mine is so important. So I'm pretty sure that this map having bugger all metal, but having ridiculously good energy and finally giving you metal makers is all entirely deliberate.
Although it's not Moho metal makers just yet, unfortunately.
Nope, those won't come around till core contingency, I'm afraid.
I know, yeah. And you miss them so much when you don't have them.
Well, I'm not going to miss them too much on the ARM missions, because by the time I get to the later stages of the game with ARM... Oh look, fighters. And bombers.
I was about to say that fighters are pointless, but maybe not the bombers.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they bother with fighters. I don't think I can build aircraft at this point. In fact, I'm pretty sure I can't build aircraft until the next planet, the desert planet. So I don't know why they send fighters in.
I guess it just looks good to have a fighter escort with your bombers.
I guess.
I mean, the fighters can hit ground targets, they're just not very good at it.
But, yes, that was the second wave of air units, a couple of fighters and some bombers, which I believe those bombers do actually go straight for the Moho mine. Fortunately, my anti-air fended them off. And that's the last use those defenders are ever really going to get.
Well worth the investment.
I think they'll take a few pot shots at some boats that get too close, but I'm pretty sure I'm keeping most of the boats fairly sort of out in this area from this point onwards. Ah, here we go. Here come the core amphibious tanks, the Crocs.
Well, they're going to do a lot, I can tell.
They're going to feed me so much metal.
Well, that's nice of the computer. I must say, though, that's a lot of tanks. If you weren't expecting those, you'd be in a lot of trouble.
Oh yeah, and
elsewhere.
If those tanks came in before the fighter attack, like if they came in instead, they were the wave after the that big boat attack, then it was Crocs, and then while the Crocs were coming in, the fighters came over. This would be seriously concerning, because the boat attack just before that, of course, wipes out most of your forces, and if you don't have time to rebuild, then those Crocs can get up there and really screw you over. And indeed, the first time I played this mission, I pretty much completely lost my water force at that point. And so my first hint that there were any Crocs whatsoever was when they popped up on the beach.
Right next to your Moho mine, obviously.
Yeah. Fortunately, I'd been building a shit ton of land defenses, because I decided that, like, I think I was building a bunch of plasma cannons and heavy laser towers, because I was like, there's so many ships, I need something to fight back against the ships. But I was pretty surprised when all those Crocs started coming out of the water. But there is worse to come. Cave Dog have given the AI in this map access to, I think, 5 specific units. And when these units show up, they are going to fuck up my shit.
I can't actually think what they might be. Torpedo bombers?
It will be extremely apparent as when they arrive. They're very unique.
A fun fact, I don't think I actually ever finished the original campaign. I know I finished Core Contingency, but not the original. I don't know why.
Were you a core player? Because if you were a core player, that's probably why. If you tried to start the game off with the core campaign, then yeah, I could totally see that, like, putting you off playing the rest of the campaign.
I think there's a specific core mission where you have to capture a big weapon of some type, and I think I just gave up at that because it was too hard.
There's a couple.
This is about 20.
Yeah, no, there's a There's a core mission on the Mars-like world, I think, where you have to capture a big Bertha, and there's an ARM mission on the Mars world where you actually have to capture the Bertha back after the core have captured it, which is amusing. And there's also a core mission on Rathrum, I think, maybe, where you have, I'm not sure if you have to capture a Zeus or you have a captured Zeus and need to protect it. I think you have a captured Zeus and need to protect it, and the ARM equivalent mission, you have to find the Zeus and destroy it.
Why would they want to capture a Zeus?
Supposedly it has important intel.
Why don't they just, like, pull its head off and take it with them?
Well, unlike core units, ARM units are actually, like, there are people in there, they're clone people, not robot people.
Pull the head off and stick it in a jar of preservative?
I don't think Cave Dog really put that much thought into it. I'm pretty sure it was more we need a MacGuffin for the player to make that follow.
Fair enough. Make it a cross-off, that'd make things easier.
And for some reason they decided that, like, Zeuses are somehow special. Like, earlier on in the ARM missions on Empyreon, it talks about how you've been given this Zeus unit as your personal bodyguard. And I remember at the time I was like, oh, Zeuses are awesome, and then I tested it out, and it's like, oh, it fires lightning, Zeuses are awesome. Then I found out that, no, Zeuses actually aren't really that awesome, but for some reason Cave Dog think they really are, so...
Why does a commander need a bodyguard?
Yeah.
There's nothing that could possibly defend him that his D-gun won't take care of.
Well, he might be low on energy, but then again, Zeuses take energy to fire, so there goes that plan out the window. I've decided to see if I can build any new advanced land units. Spoiler, I can't. And now I'm building a battleship. The ARM battleship, the Millennium.
I know.
Well, that battleship is actually, like, those battleships are going to turn out to be very, very necessary before the end of the mission. I'm actually quite glad I decided to start building a battleship. I initially was planning on just building Conquerors, but I had all that metal sitting around after reclaiming all that stuff, and I thought, you know what, I've got enough metal sitting around that I can start power building a battleship out, just so I can show everyone for the Let's Play.
I like core battleships better. I think they're a lot more interesting since they're not just two giant plasma cannons.
Core battleships are better. The core battleship, the Warlord, with its laser cannon, is better at ship-to-ship warfare, whereas the ARM battleship is better at bombarding shorelines.
Makes sense.
Because the ARM battleship has two long-range, I think they're medium plasma cannons, I believe is the term, whereas the core battleship only has one, but it has a heavy laser.
Yeah.
Mind you, the core battleship's heavy laser has a fairly decent range on it. It certainly shouldn't be underestimated, but it's not quite the same as the ARM's plasma cannons. I think the Millennium also wins versus the core battleship if they both engage from maximum range and move towards each other, because the Millennium opens fire sooner.
I guess so.
There's the Millennium.
It's a shame they move like a pregnant hippo.
They do. Battleships are slow as fuck, but I think what a lot of people, I guess, forget about real-life battleships is that real-life battleships were basically the boxes of the navies. They're not really there to dish out pain so much as they're there to take it.
Yeah.
Like, the purpose of battleships is basically to be a big walking wall of armor and guns.
A mobile gun platform.
They're not really expected to single-handedly destroy entire enemy fleets. What they're expected to do is be virtually unsinkable and dish out hell on anything that gets in range, and that's pretty much what they do.
Except against the air units. They're like helpless puppies against the air units.
And they're helpless puppies against subs too. They have no defense against subs or air units, but against ground units... Well, here we go, I'm just demonstrating its plasma cannons. As you can see, that's a pretty decent rate of fire. Having
I love
one of
the
those
little details, like the recoil on the cannons for that sort of thing.
Yes.
That's one thing TA always had. All the little moving bits and pieces made everything just that much cooler.
Yep. They did it in Supreme Commander 2, which I was very happy to see. makes everything feel alive.
Yeah. Shouldn't speak of the competition, but StarCraft 2 is quite good like that. All the little details on the units.
No, it is. Blizzard did an excellent job with StarCraft 2 in making everything sort of look and feel alive. Some of the animations in StarCraft 2 are brilliant, like the Observer animation. I can't get enough of that. But then again, StarCraft 2, like Total Annihilation, actually does have a physics engine in it. Although it doesn't use the physics engine for projectiles, it only uses it for, like, debris and whatnot.
Ragdolls, yeah.
But it is there, and you can use it for projectiles if you want.
What's with the scout ships?
Well, I'm getting... One of the problems with many units, but especially ships in Total Annihilation, is that they can shoot a hell of a lot further than they can see.
Ah.
And so what I've decided to do is I've got my line of conquerors set up here, and this... Look at some more planes.
Well, that went well.
Yeah, I don't think there was even any bombers in that one. I think that was just a bunch of planes. Weird. Yeah, I've got this nice line of conquerors, which is a pretty decent defensive line, but runs into the slight problem that if anything gets close to the conquerors, they are kind of squishy. So I've decided to send these scout ships out to see incoming enemies. It hasn't gone too well.
I presume that's some sort of magical bullshit vision there from the computer player. You shouldn't be able to see those.
No, the computer does actually have radar. It does have radar coverage of this area. And my ships are all getting caught up on these crocs, which turned out to be perfectly timed. And as you can see from the green lasers coming at me across that island, there are some core battleships down here. Remember those 5 specific units I was talking about that were going to fuck me up?
Wow, they got 5 of them?
Yep.
Well, I hope you enjoyed those ships.
Yeah, and there go my cruisers. So that's it for my navy. Retreat.
Lucky you've got those torpedo launchers to stop crocs.
Yeah, and I'm going to lose that one too. See, there we go. 5 battle cruisers. They're battleships right there. 5 fucking battleships. I was pretty stunned to see 5 fucking battleships. I knew they had some battleships, but I thought it was like 2. I thought it was like 2 that came in one at a time. I didn't think it was just going to be a blob of 5 battleships just sitting behind that island. And some more bombers, just to make life interesting.
Picking on your one remaining battleship.
Smart bombers, really. And we've got some crocs decided to come up on the shore to the east.
But finally they came up where they should have come up in the first place.
Well, sort of. They didn't actually go all the way up the bay and come up somewhere undefended. They just sort of came up on that peninsula. But it's improved. They're getting somewhere.
Kind of shows how desperate you are. You're sucking up individual metal teeth for metal.
I'm actually getting rid of the dragon's teeth because I don't want them getting in the way of any movement. And I've got nothing better for those construction units to do. Like, I have way more construction units than I need right now.
It's dangerous having your commander out there with the submarines around.
I've got enough torpedo launchers that I don't really need to worry about subs right now. Like, if those 4 torpedo launchers were dead, then yeah, I would not have my commander there. But with those torpedo launchers there, there's no real way the computer can get my commander with subs.
Fair enough.
And I need that Millennium back up at full health, like, pronto. I've got 5 fucking warlords sitting just outside radar vision. I need a battleship.
The problem with the torpedo launchers is they can actually shoot a lot further than their sonar lets them. So having a sonar station with them is pretty handy.
And it would appear that the warlords have decided to move up a bit.
Well, you're well prepared, aren't you?
Not for warlords. See, the warlords can quite happily just sit way out of range and bombard all my shit with those and my torpedo launchers, and oh god. Fortunately, they're stupid enough to just charge right in.
And you can't even fight back, because on a one-on-one, or five-on-one, your Millennium will not win.
Fortunately, though, they decide to just charge straight in and get mauled by my torpedo launchers.
Well, that's a nice metal donation. Those things are must be about 5,000 metal, I think.
I believe I can reclaim them. Hey, 3,345. I'm mousing over it right now. Fair amount, yeah.
That's what's the good thing about the lasers of the core battleship, is that they're more or less instant hit. There's no travel time, so you can't dodge them.
Yep. And that's why the core battleship is better in ship-to-ship combat.
How's that fortunate timing?
Yeah, that battleship finishing up right there, talk about perfect fucking timing.
Was your commander reclaiming him?
Yes. I was kind of panicking at that point because, I mean, like I said, I'd expected one battleship to come in. I hadn't expected 3 to come in all at once. And I'm kind of like, oh god, that battleship is going to come up here and just murder everything I have. But it can't hit my commander. Quick, reclaim it!
You didn't even try and capture it.
Are you kidding? Do you have any idea how long it takes to capture a battleship?
Yeah.
I mean, good god, look how long it takes to reclaim the wreckage.
I didn't say it was a good idea, just said it was an idea.
And, despite the fact that there are, like, 2 more battleships waiting out there, I think the worst has sort of happened.
Hopefully.
I think it's mostly downhill from here. Because I don't... I mean, it was a couple of days ago when I recorded this, but I don't remember there being any more oh shit moments like when that third battleship came up and started blowing up on everything I had.
Does the core player have a base in this, or is he just throwing random units at you?
The core starts off with a massive navy spread along the southern edge of the map, and then they're scripted for certain chunks of the navy to move up at certain points and do certain things. This is also the first mission where poking the bear is something that can happen, because the units are scripted. If you go down and attack them, all of the units immediately, like the entire navy, just right-clicks on your base and runs up and murders you.
Well, that'll end well.
Typically, from my experience, the way this mission goes for a first-time player is player starts off, player looks around, player starts building defenses around Moho Mine, player sends scout ships out to scout, player discovers gigantic enemy fleet with scout ships, player dies.
Sounds like a perfectly logical course of action.
Basically, when Cave Dog tell you to defend your base, you defend your base. You don't go exploring, you don't go wandering, you just sit there and you defend your base.
It's alright to turtle sometimes.
There are multiple maps in this where you just have to turtle, like the game completely encourages you to turtle.
Well, unlike a lot of multiplayer games, it sort of works in multiplayer as well. It won't work forever, but you can hold your own pretty well, because there's a counter to everything. Almost. In fact, that's something Spring adds that I think is pretty handy. The Spring TA, it adds a plasma deflector shield that lets you bounce off Intimidator or Big Bertha shots. It uses a lot of energy, but it provides immunity for them in a small area, which is always good. But this doesn't have anything like that, unfortunately.
To be perfectly honest, I'm of the opinion that shields, like the shields in Supreme Commander, allowed you to become immune to long-range artillery, kind of like that deflector thing. again, exchange for huge amounts of energy, and it resulted in a kind of problem where it was sort of impossible to break through anyone's base if they turned up sufficiently hard.
Well, this is not too bad because the plasma shots bounce off, which means they can ricochet into various parts of your base.
That's probably not too bad then, but okay, I take that back. There are at least 6 warlords. Because there's the third. That's the 6th one right there.
Yeah. I'm guessing you just triggered the attack to send everything in.
No, I think the last 2 waves on hard are just 2 waves of 3 warlords. That was actually the last wave. I think, yeah, there's one more warlord coming up. Yeah, there's one more warlord coming up. So the last 2 waves are 3 warlords and then 4 warlords. And that's actually the last of it. But there is, as is typical in this in Total Annihilation and from this Let's Play thus far, there is a unit somewhere on the map which has gotten lost, and I need to go find it and kill it before the mission ends. Oh, I take all that back. There's even... Holy shit, how many warlords are there?
Not enough, obviously.
8, I can see 8, 9. I can see 2 more warlords on the minimap. 9 freaking warlords. What the hell, game?
That's why they call it hard difficulty.
Yeah. I tell you what, subs are, necessary. I didn't build any subs last mission, but you can see me building them now because you need them to take out the warlords.
Even if they can't take them out, at the very least they can scout without getting shot up by them.
Yeah. That's actually why I decided to build them. I was like, right, I'll put some subs out there because warlords can't hit subs. Okay, I know I've said this like twice before now, but I'm pretty sure the last wave is actually over now, and it's just that one missing unit.
So this is where air units would be very handy, but no, sadly.
Well, considering what the missing unit actually is, if you look at the minimap, you can see that there's a little red dot up there by my hammers. That is the missing unit, and I'm starting to like, hang on, where's the... Come on, they can't possibly have more fleet, I'm thinking to myself. That has to be the last of it. Why hasn't the mission ended? And then I noticed that red dot up there, and I'm like, is that what I think it is?
Is it a croc sitting underwater?
No, it's not a croc. Remember how I said that the core had 1 piranha? And that something would happen to that piranha which rendered it completely and totally useless for the entire mission?
Actually, I saw one earlier attacking your base.
Did you? Oh, in that case they have 2 piranhas. There you go.
It
I
came up the side and got blown away by your cruisers before it really did anything.
I didn't notice. I noticed a couple of lurker attacks from snakes, but I didn't notice any from piranhas. But yeah, there's a piranha up there, which is... Because I've set my hammers to patrol in such a way that they very occasionally stick one toe in the water, that piranha is desperately trying to kill them. And so he's just sitting up there, patrolling back and forth, trying to get a clear line of fire on the hammers.
If you do it right, you can skip torpedoes over land, so maybe he thinks he can do that.
Yeah, but in order to do that, you need to manually fire something which the computer isn't capable of, so... Here's my investigating sub. In case you're wondering why I haven't said more stuff, it's basically because I'm worried that there might actually be more coming. And there it is, there's the shark.
Oh, those things are flimsy.
And there we go, victory gongs. Mission is over. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was our Mission 7. Good night.